Good evening and welcome to round 9 of the Kart 1988 Championship, coming to you tonight from Meadowlands in New Jersey. And the Meadowlands Sports Complex, as I think it's technically called. Which, well, I'm trying to get my head around all of this. Joining me in the booth tonight is Alberto Ibañez, Senior, and Dave Miller. Good evening, guys.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening from the Bettenhausen March.
And, of course, we are here tonight from the Meadowlands Sports Complex. Let's get the track up on screen, the track map anyway, which is in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and it's a temporary street course located in a parking lot, if I'm not entirely mistaken, or was. It's not in use any longer. It is 1.217 miles, or about, well, or 1.959 kilometers, with lap times around the 39 to 40 second mark. We'll probably see around 40 second lap times during the race, and we will be racing for 150 laps, which will equal around 182.5 miles. So, guys, sorry, before I get to that, this is of course also the first time we are racing at the Meadowlands. It wasn't available 2 years ago when we did a championship, but through the hard and diligent work of the HSO modding team, we now have the track in its full glory for us to use, and one of the guys we have to thank for that is Alberto Ibañez, who are with us here tonight. So, Alberto and Dave, what are you thinking, what are you expecting from tonight's event?
Well, thank you, Jonathan. What we can expect from today's race is obviously what you can expect from a narrow, very, very narrow and very difficult track, because this is a road course completely enclosed by walls. And therefore, it's a very short. The lap times are here very quick, as you have already pointed out, and it's very dangerous. It's going to be very hard to overtake, very hard to lap, unless the other driver cooperates. And then again, it's going to be very dangerous, because the slightest error can mean here immediately that you hit a wall and must abandon. So let's see what the racing brings us, but let's hope that everybody stays safe.
Indeed, it's very short and very intense lap, this one. Nowhere to go if you get it wrong. And some very fast, very tricky corners to throw in as well, with cars that try to kill you at every opportunity.
And looking at the track action in the background, the warm-up has just started, so while Alberto take care of the pre-race briefing side of things, let's have a quick look at the points standings as of last time out at Toronto, where we raced before the summer break, which saw Tiago Canola make a very impressive comeback from running quite far behind after a few issues during the race. He leads sorry, I'm down with a cold, so he leads the championship on 103 points. Second is David Yates, who is sitting on 94 points. Richard Coxon is third on 76, but unfortunately due to real life stuff going on, Richard isn't able to partake in the series for the foreseeable future, so he has released his True Sports #1 Lola Yud, which I actually can't remember who picked up the car for this round, but it is in the hands of another driver. I think it might be Cesariusz Szlapinski, but I could be wrong. Anyway, fourth in the points are Grant Ridol on 53, and David Junt, the ever consistent Swiss, lines up fifth on 46. And let's see if we can get to some track action as well. I just do that to make sure we don't get the video intro on the screen. Let's see if we have anyone out on track at the moment. Maybe even Dave wouldn't mind to help us out. Well, maybe the briefing is still going on. This race is of course somewhat famous. It's a street circuit on a very tight confines, but it also saw one of the more controversial situations where Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. fought for the win in the race in 1988, with Emerson ending up in the wall at the turn 4-5 right-left hand combination. I can't remember if he retired on the spot, but I think he did, and therefore Al Unser Jr. took the win in the race, and some may say that that was the precursor to what happened at Indianapolis a couple of years later.
He did, and Emerson got revenge for that.
Indeed. One may say a driver never considers that during an actual race, but somewhere in the back of their mind it is playing on their concentration. But anyway, Dave coming through the right-left combination, so talk away, mate. Take us around the lap.
Okay, coming out of the final corner, it's flat out if you get it right. Through the little S's here, up towards turn 1. This is the tricky one. Brake just at the free, try not to overshoot it. Get on the power as early as possible for the back straight. Not a long track this one, so we need to make up as much time as we can. Up to the hairpin brake just before the foreboard. Turn in, keep it tight to the left, and then swing around to the right, up towards the chicane. Braking early, through the flick, back on the power towards the final corner, and that's a lap of the Meadowlands. It's very quick, very intense,
and far from easy.
especially when doing it one-handed. Holding the
Right.
talk down.
Pardon me forcing you to talk while driving that, but still a perfectly decent race lap there.
Yes, everybody has seen it's very narrow here. It doesn't seem so narrow when you're driving a street car, but obviously it's very narrow because these cars use all of the track, and they are going very quick. Kids are going into the 160-something mph at the end of both main straights, so there's little time for thinking. And if you look at the perspective from the cockpit, you see one of these 2-meter wide Indy cars in front of you, then you will see that it's certainly not easy at all passing. Passing will be key here, and well, it would amaze me very much if even our passing masters are able to pass each other here in this track. It's going to be very hard to go for the gap and to be successful at it. So probably, considering that there will be yellows, people will like to try to win the race on strategy here. Could be seeing some yellows, unfortunately, but well, certainly. And in those situations, it's when you will have to make the right call, because same as in a short oval, with such a short lap, it means that if you are not pitting in the right moment, if you are left behind and need to enter the pits when it's under green, you could easily lose 1 or 2 laps while you are there.
Of course.
So let's see what happens.
It'll be a very interesting race indeed, and we have a few sort of newcomers or comebackees, so to speak. Jakob Fröksen is partaking in this event in the car he won the championship with in 2017, the number 11 Machinists Union entry. I'm trying to find on the list. We also have Alberto Junior back in the racing seat for this event. Alberto has mainly driven the ovals in this series so far, I believe, but has been taking a bit of a hiatus from the series to work on his consistency behind the wheel, and hopefully we'll get to see some of that tonight and a good finish for the young Spaniard. Let's see, I know we have a few others. I believe Brian Yannick has picked up a new ride in the number 21 Jiffy sponsored machine. Trying to look. Here we have, so we have the Emerson Fittipaldi car all across the road. But Cesariusz Szlapinski is indeed in the number 1 True Sports Budweiser sponsored number 1 of Bobby Rahal. Taking that yard over from Richard Coxon for at least this event. I can't remember if Cesariusz picked up the Lola for the full championship. We also have, if I can get to him, did I miss him? Must have done. Trying to work my way there. There we are. Anders Nilsson is back. My fellow Swede who partook in the F1 91 championship back in 2012 in R-Factor. And more or less took a break from Simracing in 2013, early 14. At least as far as I'm aware, but now he's back and looks like he's out for blood. I think he qualified in the top 10 for this race, so hopefully he'll have a decent race. As we can see, Jason White, and I believe that was Richard Wilkes in a bit of an incident at turn 2. Going to see, do we have any others that are new? I don't think so.
We were expecting Pascal Mikula, but he finally seemed to be able to make it into the race, unfortunately. I hope we'll have him back soon.
Indeed. We do know that Automobilista, the sim we are using for this event, released an update to solve a few issues with the game. Unfortunately, it would seem that it has caused some others. One of them being force feedback, which most of us sim racers use to feel what the car is doing, and with that messed up, it's, unless you're used to running without full speed feedback, quite difficult to actually drive the cars. So for safety, if nothing else, I think Pascal has decided to not partake, unless I'm mistaken.
I think that's the case there, Jonathan. It's a bit of a strange one, the update we've had. It's not made much of a difference to the issue it was purported to fix, but seems to have caused a whole load of new ones.
Indeed. We have been experiencing earlier some sound clipping, I think we can describe it, where at high revs the engines would shortly cut out, followed by sort of like the bottom of the car scraping along the asphalt. That has seemingly been more sort of fixed, but when I was driving in preparation for the Super Tourenwagen Cup, which we will be having the first round of on Wednesday. There seemed to be some clipping in other areas of driving instead, but anyway, warm-up is over and we are now heading towards the race. Warm-up was headed by David Junt, but Thiago Canola will line up on pole for this 150 lap stonker.
So, race prediction, Jonatan, for you?
Oh,
Who do you think will win?
oh, that's a difficult one. I wouldn't bet against Richard Wilkes having a very good strategy for this race. And I would put in a dark horse in the form of Anders Nilsson. If he's had enough practice to get to grips with the cars, I'm fairly sure we will see him at the sharp end for most of the race, if not all of it. What about you?
Well, I'm going to go to play it safe. I will say David Jacks, because he's a guy who is very good at reading the races, and race strategy will play a key. We said. So let's see our grid.
Yep, we have Thiago Canola, of course, on pole position with Grant Riddle in second. David Yates lines up third with David Junt for Reiner in fourth. Fifth for Richard Wilkes and sixth for Brian Yannick. Seventh for Jason Whited, that's a great qualifying from him. And Anders Nilsson on his return to HSO Racing lines up 8th for Doug Shearson Racing. Alberto Queen on his semi-return to at least kart racing lines up 9th for Team Penske, and Jacob Fredriksson in his one-off drive rounds out the top 10. 11th for Ray Riddle and 12th for Jason White. Juha Bors lines up 13th with David Saber 14th. Dave Miller, our fellow in-race commentator, lines up 15th.
Already. They are heading now for the start.
Okay, Rion lines up 16th, Slapinski 17th, Chacon 18th.
They were going quite slow there, but they got the green. Seems that they are getting through turn 1 safely. No!
Oh, looks like there was some trouble a bit further back. One spinner, but it looks like everyone has avoided him. I think that's Ray Riddle, unfortunately. It is indeed. He may even be out with a rear suspension damage. He is, unfortunately, so let's see if we can find out what happened. He had... Oh, looks like David Saber may have made a mistake, and Alberto unfortunately got caught up in that as well. So Ray Riddle is out with damage. Looks like everyone else was able to keep going. I don't know how much damage Alberto Jr. or David Saber will have had. But here goes Dave Miller on the attack against David Saber, but there's nothing to come of that for now, so let's go back to the front of the grid where Grant Riddle and David Yates are on it for the lead. Sorry, second. So Thiago Canola romping away with this. I think that'll be a 2.5 second lead already.
I'll give you a report in a moment.
Okay. So Thiago Canola leads the way with a big gap to David Yates in second. Grant Riddle is third with David Junt for close company. And here comes David Junt. Flies past down the straight. Oh, just about gets past. Oh no, all sideways for Grant.
Damage to the last car.
Okay.
I just checked that because I just had to go to the room beneath.
Okay. Oh, it's Grant Riddle and David Junt makes a bit of contact, but Grant retakes third position. So some good racing going on already on lap 3 of this race, and David Junt tries to get back on the attack into the 4-5 combination right-left. Richard Wilkes is 5th, Yannick 6th, Nilsson 7th, Fredriksson 8th, Whited 9th, and Juha Bors rounds out the top 10.
And Thiago Canola is not looking back. He has already opened a gap with David Jacks and with Grant Riddle and David Junt. In any case, I suspect we will have a yellow sooner than later, because there are now many more cars in the track. And when that happens, well, those lead will come to nothing. But just in case, he certainly is taking no chances.
Indeed. It's almost looks very similar to what he did at Toronto before the summer break. As I could see there, White on the attack against Leclerc.
Nice pass and nice move from Leclerc, who knew that the position was lost and tried to shut the door or anything like that.
Nope, and I suppose that shows how much down on power the Porsche is when the Yad is able to fly past down the straight. But of course, I know Jason White at least will be running a oval setup for this race, considering it's what they call a distorted oval. I think they decided to call this kind of layout, where it's more or less there's two right-handers and the rest are lefts.
Yeah, I don't think that it will be any quicker, but what it can do for you probably is to save your tires a bit more. So we'll see how that goes. Watch out, yellow! What happened?
Looks like Alberto unfortunately has been involved in that. Not sure who else would have been, but let's see if we can get a... Oh, very unfortunate. Looks like Alberto came in just a little bit hot into the 4-5 combination. I don't know if he got caught out by Schlapinski ahead, but no, I don't think so. It's just a very simple error of locking up the tires, and into the barrier unfortunately you go. Very nice recovery, no issue for anyone else getting around him by the looks of things, so hopefully Alberto will be able to get out before he loses a lap.
Yeah, he probably lost the reference when being behind Cesarius. But yeah, there you go, there you have the yellows. We're talking about that, safety car is out, and now Thiago Canola's lead is vanished to nothing.
Indeed. Let's see, oops, we do that. We're sorting out the mouse on the screen, that should be gone now. So our first yellow of the day, with Canola of course still in the lead, romped away with it early on, but as Alberto said, it's all for nothing. Yates right behind him now in second. Grant Ridol is fourth, third, David Junt is fourth, Richard Wilkes fifth, Yannick sixth, Nilsson seventh, Fredriksson eighth, Whited ninth, and Juha Boos 10th, with Sabre in 11th, Dave Miller 12th, Cesarius Schlapinski 13th, Gerard Riot in 14th, Jason White 15th, Leclerc 16th, and Bruno Chacon in 17th. And unfortunately it looks like Alberto will lose at least one lap with his repairs. And of course,
well, much more than that, because he seems to be off for nearly 10 minutes of repairs. Ooh. But I just spoke to him, and well, he was certainly quite upset after he lost all his positions because of that incident. And now he says he will wait for the repairs and try to cruise for some points. But oh no, seems to have disconnected. No.
Oh.
Disco.
That's really unfortunate.
We're going green this time, by gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Yeah, back to the head of the race.
Let's see, actually looks like there's a bit of a gap between Grant and David and Grant for the time being, but I'd assume they will all close up. Almost a bit of a stack up out of the second to last corner, but let's see what happens here on the restart as we are coming up towards the start-finish line.
Yeah, there goes the green. For late green here in this track. So this time they were more aware of it, but...
Indeed. As David Junt looks up the inside in turn 2. And he's actually further up alongside. He may have an opportunity. No, actually the engine power of Grant Ridol was able to hold him ahead, and Junt almost came under attack from Richard Wilkes.
Some locking brakes behind, but overall people coming by very safely. Thiago still unchallenged in the lead. I don't think that David Jacks would like to pose any challenge anyway. He sees that Thiago is quite quick and doesn't want to get into trouble trying to overtake.
No, I think they are both very good racers and are very much aware of, first and foremost, get away from the rest of the pack, and then you can start working on each other.
Yeah, and with only 8 laps into the race, nobody has pit, so everybody's in a real situation. And well, this is a track where you will want to delay your pit stop as much as possible, because when overtaking is difficult, what you should do is, well, keep the track position. So unless they are really low on fuel, I don't think. Oh, another yellow. What's that?
Well, Jason White, unfortunately, by the looks of things.
Yep, he hit the wall in the final chicane.
Same place, same mistake, unfortunately.
Yeah, it seems to me that you lose easily the reference when there is a car in front of you there, and it's... No, wait, that was another car, that wasn't Jason.
Oh yes, it was Jason. At least as far as I'm aware.
Whitehead, Jason Whitehead.
Yeah, I said Jason Whitehead.
Ah, okay, you thought you were referring to Jason. Yeah, okay, the broadcast nightmare again.
Yeah, really sorry for Jason.
Yeah, he quit the race also.
Yeah, he had a very good qualifying, but unfortunately one tiny mistake is all it takes around here, with how tight the confines of the track is.
Yes. So back again behind the safety car.
Yep. I suppose most people is sort of happy that there's a few safety cars, so that there's less of a chance that they make a mistake of their own around here. But of course, it's also a case of everyone wanting to sort of get into a rhythm and run their race as well. So
yeah, this ruins your concentration, obviously. So in that regard, it's not very good. I mean, if you've been racing for some fair amount of laps, a yellow might sometimes be a very welcome thing, because you can rest for a bit and somehow your stress. But in this case, it's just breaking the rhythm.
very much so, and well, why we
And speaking
are...
of the
Sorry, go ahead.
speaking of the safety car, it'll be in this lap.
Okie dokie. So, the track marshals here at the Meadowlands Sports Complex are very diligent and quick with their work indeed. Could also be the fact that even the safety car lap takes no more than 45, well, 55 seconds.
Brandt is already putting some tires. I wonder if he's thinking of attacking David Jacks or just defending from David John. Oh no.
It's actually a bit of a stack up there, just like last time. So let's see what happens on this time around, as I forgot to put the yellow flag on the broadcast hub, but green flag is out. And looks like it's more or less everyone together here.
Richard Wilkes is there up in 5th. That he have a good setup and seems quite motivated for this race. And it's nice to see him there near the top. Main creator of the physics of this mod.
Indeed so, and
he
a bit
knows
of
it very well, and it's a very quick driver.
Certainly, and just a few places behind Anders Nilsson and Johan Bors was going side by side into that tight twist section. But yeah, it's really good to see Richard up there, and I really hope he'll have a good race. With all the work he puts down, both to bring us the physics for this mod as well as others, he deserves to have good and fair races. It looks like the top 4 is slightly breaking away. Now there's more or less a second between 4th and 5th. But it also looks like Thiago won't quite have it all his own way now, because right behind him is David Yates, putting the pressure on. And Dave Miller now makes it up into the top 10. Mrs. Miller will be very pleased, I'm sure.
Yeah, much as we had been saying before the race, people here are trying to be cautious, and we don't see any daring movements and maneuvers and attempts to overtake, because it's so hard here. So everybody is mostly cruising, trying to keep his position and get into a rhythm. And then when the pit stops start happen, we will see some interesting things. For example, who is able to stretch his tank a bit more, who is going for a different strategy.
Indeed, but you barely were able to finish the everyone is cruising before Jakob Fredriksson had one mighty tank slapper going through turn 2. So while they are sort of in cruise mode, because of how difficult these cars are to drive, it's still a bit of a dangerous
Yeah, and
proposition.
Anderson certainly has own ideas about what he do. Now going past Fredriksson, it's some difference in engine in his favor. Oh, nope, that way not. Jakob had the position. It's so hard when you know that you are a bit quicker than the guy in front to really stay behind, even if you don't have chances to overtake.
Well, to be fair, he had a very good chance, but wasn't quite far enough alongside to command the track position. But it looks like everyone else is more or less spread out. So
yeah, and that's very important, because you have to also take care of the tires, because they are going to take a good beating here. With this constant acceleration from low speeds, you get a lot of wheel spin, and the hard braking gives you many situations where you are locking the fronts. We've seen already puffs of smoke coming from the front of the cars in heaviest braking areas, and that means you can easily get square tires, usually with the inevitable shaking of the steering wheel and losing the ability to brake so well. So conserving tires here is also going to be the prime necessity. Oh, there's Lapinski now putting some pressure on David Saber.
for 11th and 12th.
David has the Chevy engine, that's the best in the mod, and should be able to get away in the straightaways. Slapinski has the Jude, which is the weakest engine in the mod, but by this part of the championship I believe they had already received the newer version and were, well, much better in terms of powers. Very well paired with the Cosworth at least. But look at that, I mean, when they come to the quick parts of the track, David's for sure opening a big hole.
Indeed, but the problem with that much more power, it's so much easier to spin up the tires, so the longer the run goes on, the more in the favor of Slapinski this fight will go, I think. And I also noticed just a little bit further up, there's a bit of a similar scrap between Dave Miller and Juha Boss. Juha Boss, of course, also with one of those Ilmor Chevrolet engines in the back of his car, but Lucky Kossi is trying his best to help Dave keep up in a straight line.
Yeah, and Anders Nilsson got past Jakob Fredriksson, by the way.
No, so he finally did it. Good on him. That
Yeah,
was
but
a...
he doesn't seem to be able to shake him off.
Well, not
So
as
next car in front for him is Baron Janik. Is he able to close to him?
Well, clearly they lost a little bit of time fighting each other, but I think both of them is tactical enough to know that they should work together now to catch up to the car in front, and maybe both of them can get by.
Iago Canola is already catching up with the first lap car. Racing in 22 laps. There he goes. Good move from Leclerc.
Well, the Porsche will probably struggle around here. Acceleration from
yellow.
the slow stuff. Oh, that's unfortunate.
We got a yellow. What happened there? Grant Riddle has crashed.
What? Oh dear
Yeah,
me.
he did. He was followed by David Junt, and let's see what happened.
Oh, and he has a puncture on the rear. Oh, and he unfortunately decides to retire. So Richard Wilkes was caught up as well. Let's see.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Gets out of turn 5, gets a bit of a tank slapper. Goes into the wall and probably either punctures or damages the suspension, and then rolls right into the tracks of Richard Wilkes, who were coming around the last corner.
Yeah, he was in a very bad place because he was in the middle of the racing line, but well, probably wasn't the best call to move in that moment, because when you're in that situation and someone's coming at you, what you really need to do is you are no longer in control of your car, so what you really need to do is to let the others avoid you as best as they can. You just stop and pray for the best.
Indeed. So unfortunately Grant Riddle is out, and Richard Wilkes is in the pits for repairs.
Poor Richard. His race was going so well, and that would give him a extra position and put him in tantalizingly close to the podium. Oh, damn.
Well,
Oh my god, and he's in for 1,300 seconds of repair.
My god. Well, we'll probably do similarly to what Greg Murphy did in one of the Bathurst races, when he received a 5-minute penalty for I think it was the fuel nozzle was still in the car, and he took off with it, and the fuel spilled all over the pit lane, and he was given a 5-minute penalty for that. And he essentially jumped out of the car, took his overalls off, went to the water closet to take care of some business, and then read a magazine, I think, and then jumped back in the car. And by then it was more or less time to get going again. So unfortunately it looks like Richard Wilkes should probably do
He made
more or
good
less the
use
same.
of that pit stop.
Oh, don't tell me
Speaking of
Richard
getting going
Wilkes'
again.
engine blew.
What? What for?
I'm not
Stopping
sure.
in the pits?
Looks like he tried to get going and the engine cooked on him.
I know, I guess I know why. What happens is that he entered the pits immediately and we were still under yellow and the pits were likely not yet open.
Very
But
likely
of course he
indeed.
was not going to do another lap like that, obviously.
Well, hopefully the engine will survive. It's smoking quite heavily. Looks like it's stopped now. Of course, we are back on the racing here. Leclerc trying to get out of the way. And here we are back at the front. Thiago Canola, Jake second, Junt third, Yannick fourth now, with Nilsson up into the top 5. Fredriksson 6th, was 7th, Dave Miller up all the way up to 8th. That's a really good start to the race for Dave. Schlapinski actually in 9th, so good consistent driving there. And Gerard Riot in the top 10, and Jason White just outside of it, and I do believe Jason ought to be able to get by Gerard at some point, although of course Jason is running the Yud, which has slightly lower power, but should be possible. And Chacon 12th. David Sabre, unfortunately, with a lot of damage here, heads into the pits, so we're still on the green. Let's see if we can find out where that happened. It seems like it was at turn 1. Oh wow! So it looks like David Sabre completely caught out and tried to make the corner instead of using the escape road, and had quite a bit of an impact, but looks like the car is more or less running, and he's back in the pits for repairs, of course.
Oh, and Wilkes has been able to get out of the pits earlier than expected.
Yep, unfortunately 2 laps down, but at least he's out there running. I assume he just took the most necessary repairs, and then he'll try to work on it as the race progresses.
This time, Tiago Canola doesn't seem to be able to get away from David Jacks so easily. I don't know if it's David Jacks pushing it a bit more, or Tiago being more conservative, because, well, Tiago has already sprinted 2 times or 3 times well into the lead, only to find out that he has just been throwing his tires and wasting more fuel for nothing.
Well, the first time he romped away, David Yates and Grant Riddle was of course fighting for position. But yeah, presumably he's just taking it a little bit easier. Not saying he's taking it easy compared to everyone else by any means, but at least just holding back 1 or 2% to keep the car under him. And now of course with that yellow, Anders Nilsson is sitting right behind Ryan Yannick for 4th. That could be the next position to change hands.
And the only positive aspect of Richard Wilkes and David Sabre having had the damage and having to enter for repairs is that now they are completely out of sync in terms of fuel with the rest of the field. So if we get to the point where the pit stops must start and there is no yellow flag at that moment, it easily happened that David and Richard get they will at least get 1 lap back. I don't know, maybe even their 2nd lap. Let's see.
Indeed, unfortunately David Sabre has retired. I assume the damage was too big to be repaired within a timely manner. And as you say, with Richard, he could definitely get some time back, and it'll be very interesting to watch here, as it looks like Terra Canola is now opening up a tiny bit of a lead. Looks like 1 to 1.4 seconds, thereabout. Just looking at the timings on the left.
Good news is that Richard Wilkes seems doing laps in the 40 seconds head, and that's with a full tank, of course, because he came out with a full tank from their repairs, which means that if there is any damage, at least he's able to drive around it, or has been mostly repaired.
Very much so. With that pace, he should be able to gain a few positions by unlapping himself, if he so sees fit.
Yeah, the head of the race is going nearly a second quicker, but we should be coming to the pit stops in... Well, we've had several yellows, otherwise that would have been just 2 pit stops in the race, probably, laps 50 and 100. But, well, we'll see.
For reference, I'm just coming up to half a tank.
Okay, then we will probably see 1.5 stops in this race. Maybe too full for the Ilmore Chevrolet runners. I just saw in the background there, as we were having our camera pinned on Tiago Canola, that David Yates had one Helluva moment going through turn 3.
David Jack's now 2 seconds behind Thiago. David and another further 2 seconds more. Then there's 4 seconds gap until Brian Janik, pursued by Anders Nilsson, already top 5.
Indeed, Jakob Fröksson is almost.
I guess it's Juha and Dave who are right now closest.
Would look like it, but yet again that Ilmo Chevrolet pulls quite a bit down the straight, so it'll be a difficult proposition for Dave to get by, but as long as he's able to stay with him, he should be able to have a good race going.
Yeah, and any error there to capitalize on it. Doesn't seem to me that Juha is too comfortable today. Has qualified well behind his usual position. I see his car under steering a lot into the corners. He's pushing a lot the front wheels, and there comes Dave Miller, power sliding out of the corner. Those two, there's certainly one that seems much more happy with the car today, and that's certainly not Juha.
Indeed. And I do know for a fact that Juha earlier today was practicing at Solder for the opening round of the Super Touring Cup. As here comes Dave up the inside. Fantastic move there.
Well seen by Juha. Overtaking move of the race so far.
Definitely, that was clean. And taking the opportunity when it presented itself. Very nicely done. Unfortunately, it is 8.5 seconds almost up to the next group of cars, but if they start fighting each other, anything can happen, as Fröksson now puts a lap on Bruno Chacon, and Anders Nilsson is now right up behind Brian Janik. So presumably Janik was held up by Chacon. Only for a moment, but it still makes a difference around here. Ooh, as Anders Nilsson locks up the rear just a tiny bit going into turn 3. Is that? So just a tiny bit of a moment there, but held on to it and didn't lose too much time. And still at the front, it looks like Yates and Canola is staying close together, as they are now coming up to Richard Wilkes, who, while he's running pretty decent laps, of course he is down on pace compared to the others, and with the lap time being.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, because they are going to put him a third lap down, and that certainly will damage him.
Oh, and he actually, oh dearie me!
I think that was a misunderstanding between both. I don't think he expected Thiago to go that way, but Thiago is in a hurry because David Jax is right behind him.
Indeed, that was very unfortunate.
I don't think that Jax is really intending to overtake him. I believe that what's happening is that Jax is not happy with what he sees behind him. Wants Thiago to speed up so that they both can get away from any pursuer.
Well, they have for almost 5 seconds to David Junt now, so. But yeah, I agree with you.
Thiago is quick enough. David will be happy to be behind. I mean, he's going to be willing to cruise with Thiago fighting him. So, unless he's really convinced that he can be quicker than Thiago, I don't think he will be attacking.
Well, that's
so if he's doing that, maybe he thinks he can open a gap.
possibly. I mean, while he may not mind sitting behind him, he for sure is showing his car every now and then to Canola, just to keep him under a little bit of pressure. But right here, Canola gained a little bit of time with the lapped car of Girardrion, who is put 1 lap down. So top 9 is now on the lead lap. The rest is at least 1 lap down. As Jason White now gets put a lap down by Anders Nilsson, who's trying to hold on to the back of Brian Yannick, but I think he lost a bit more time than Yannick did, as unfortunately Jakob Flex and Jason White makes a tiny bit of contact. I think Jason wanted to get to the inside on the exit to leave the racing line open, but Fregson wanted the inside to get by.
Jax is power sliding it coming out of the corner. So he's certainly thinking about making a move on Diego Canola.
Well, that's very impressive to watch, but it could also just be a case of him having to drive at that kind of pace to even keep up, so it's difficult to tell. As
So
Mathieu Leclerc is heading for the pits.
Yeah, he's going to the pits now. But I wouldn't say this is a scheduled pit stop. Oh, look at that. Thiago has now do 9.4. So that pressure from David Jax. Yeah, I guess that David thinks that the field is clear enough for him now to try to escape, approaching the first pit stop. And he probably wants to have his homework done before he goes into the pits. Then say goodbye to Thiago Canola. Maybe he thinks that he can a quick pit stop, then make Thiago lose his toe and well, be able to open a small gap.
Well, it's certainly possible. As I said, it's definitely putting his car in the mirror of Thiago here, so as we've seen previously, even Thiago can crack a little bit under pressure, so if he's put under enough of it, it may present an opportunity for David to get by and run away. I'm not sure how they get positioned in the pits, but it may also be that David Yates wants to be ahead for the pit stop, so he gets a straight run into the pit stall. Well, Jakob Fregson is unfortunately retired. I just noticed. Let's see if we can possibly find out what happened. Oh, looks like he's hit the wall. He's definitely picked up damage somewhere. He was scraping along the wall. Oh, he actually, oh dear me, he understeered in the right-hander in the infield, and looks like he broke his left rear suspension, and sportingly, I suppose, decided to, rather than try to run around with a damaged suspension, park the car. So no safety car, fortunately for us, I suppose, but very unfortunate for Jakob. I was sort of thinking he would have a good race, but such things can happen sometimes. As Dave Miller is up into 6th with that, you are both up into 7th, Schlapinski up into 8th, Diandrion up into 9th, and Jason White breaks the top 10. For now he has 18 seconds to Bruno, so unless a mistake or incident happens, looks like Jason should be able to hold on to that position for the foreseeable future. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, and the consolation for Richard Wilkes is that points are cheap today, and some luck he should be able to bag some.
Yeah, I believe he gets one.
Yeah, on 12th position he already gets one. So, well, if anything else happens in the race, he should be able to get some more.
Indeed. as we could see there.
He's one lap down on Bruno Chacon, but his pace is quicker, and with the yellows they get grouped, so he might think that he makes a shot at that 11th position. And if anything happens to any other car in front, and you can't rule that out because we're only 50 race, well, that should be even more points. So, well, normally you would be quite demoralized when you are 3 laps down and, well, with no real chance of doing anything, but in this case you have at least a good motivation to hold on.
Indeed. And I think one of the other reasons.
Whoa, what the melee! Look at that, Thiago Canola. Oh, Jesus, he just squeezed like that. I mean, this is like... it's like if they were racing in the middle of New York City and not here. That traffic.
Indeed. So it was Juha Bors, Jason White, and in the middle goes Thiago, dearie me. That sort of feels like, was it Hakima Schumacher who was fighting and went to either side of...
yeah, that was with... it was against Mika Häkkinen, and they caught in the middle another car, and Häkkinen split one place, and when Schumacher went the other way, suddenly found Häkkinen behind him. He wasn't expecting that, and well, the car in the middle, thanks God he didn't move at all.
Indeed.
That's exactly what you would expect from a lapped car. I mean, if you're a good driver, you know that when you're being lapped, what you have to do is just go on with your business, not do anything unexpected.
Indeed.
But it was terrifying, because here we are risking just virtual damage, but they were putting their real lives at stake.
Indeed. I think that race was... I know it was at Spa. I think it would have been 1999, question mark?
Something like that.
Yep, 99 that one was.
Cheers, Dave. Good thing I have some kind of memory left. Suppose I'm not old enough yet. Anyway, Thiago's still in the lead. Yates shadowing him like a menacing bloodhound or something like that, I suppose. Keeping him on his toes. David Junt in a very lonely third position for Reina. Yet again, very consistent and staying out of trouble. Oh, this time actually on a replay, so let's get back into live showing as well. Yannick looks like he's opened up a bit of a gap to Anders Nilsson with all that traffic. So he is probably in a pretty happy position at the moment, running 3/10 of his so far ultimate lap time. And running more or less the same kind of pace as Anders Nilsson in 5th. Dave Miller in 6th, of course, having the leaders coming up to him now. And going to the inside to let both of them by the looks of things. He does indeed. So I think this time Thiago was a bit more prepared for being let past, so to speak, compared to last time he encountered traffic right there. So David Yates has a bit of a look up the inside. Besides against going for the move though.
Certainly not going to be comfortable at all for Thiago Canola in a car that close behind. Certainly lots of pressure to be putting David Jackson. Goes in. No. Yeah. He's willing to pass.
So my apologies, looks like my internet is playing up a little bit. Hopefully...
There is no real reason for David Jacks to push that much, because they have even increased the gap with the third classified, that is David Jones. So there's no real danger for him.
Well, I wouldn't put it past David to just be driving within himself and awaiting a few more yellows before the end of the race. And maybe going for it towards the end. if he feels he has the pace.
Whoa!
As David Yates
Yeah,
again with a...
That's what you would expect would happen, and that's what's really happening now. I mean, putting so much beating on his tires that starting to pay the price now.
Indeed. That was a very close call, but lucky for him, there was enough room for him.
Thiago has opened a gap of 2 seconds. Well, let's see what happens. And he also put Mathieu Leclerc between both of them, now that they are coming to the... Good move by Mathieu.
Oh, very good Mathieu.
Slow section. It would have hurt a lot.
Yeah, it certainly would have. Very nice heads-up driving from Mathieu Leclerc, getting out of the way and letting the leaders get on with their fight. Because despite there being 2.5 seconds now between them, it's still...
David has been doing all this. Because he would normally just wait a bit more until the pit stop happens. Maybe he's on a different strategy. I mean, maybe he thinks that he can preserve fuel and therefore let Thiago enter the pits and then open a gap to him, maybe 1 or 2 extra laps with fuel, but I don't know, it's hard to tell. Certainly seems to have cooked the tires by now.
Well, the question is if the tires are holding on well enough for him to actually do those 2 extra laps on.
I mean, he's right now losing time to Thiago Canola, and we can see that he's constantly sliding and locking wheels and all that, so whatever was in his tires, he's have used it.
Indeed, I wonder if it would even be worth it to short stop now and then do the full stop later to get on some new rubber, because
look at that.
He is definitely having to hold on. And both of them.
Look at that. Both of them into the pits, and only 1 second difference now.
Nicely on, and Anders Nilsson in the pits just ahead of them.
Yep.
And Anders gets going.
Yeah,
so
pit stops are starting. Let's see, Thiago should be about ready.
There
he
goes,
is.
and
Jackson, so
it'll be tight.
Well.
Oh, just about, not quite far enough up to demand a position, I don't think. As they both come out of the pit side by side, but David Yates...
Well, at least he has recovered the difference.
Whoa!
Oh,
He's actually up there!
On cold tires.
Oh, who can get the power down? It's David Yates, so David Yates takes the lead of the race, but here comes Canola.
But this is not over, wait.
Oh, Canola outbroke himself.
Ooh, he almost hit that wall, and that would have been the very end for him.
Oh, and some tire smoke up ahead. Someone has locked up.
David managed very well this situation on cold tires.
Indeed, and here comes David Jund coming out of the pits, but he will be way behind.
Oh! David nearly lost it there.
He's certainly giving it its all to open up a gap now to Thiago. I suppose he feels that with that long green flag run, we won't see any more yellows. At least that's, I think, what he'll be hoping for. As Brian Yannick is being held up, unfortunately. This time by Anders Nilsson, who now gets out of the way, but Yannick into the pits, as is Rion. So unfortunately both Anders Nilsson and Brian Yannick got held up there.
Jason White has been able to stretch his pit stop a bit more, and what about Richard Wilkes? He's have recovered at least 1 lap. Yeah, because obviously he didn't have to make that pit stop, as we had been talking about, and now his situation is much better because he is on low fuel, lower, I mean, than the others who have just gotten a full tank and therefore should be going quicker.
Well, it certainly looks like he's quicker than Mathieu Leclerc, who he's now flying past. Yes, hopefully he will be able to gain a few more positions here before he has to make his presumably last stop of the race. As Juha Boos now comes out to the pits. Quite a ways behind Dave Miller actually, so Dave gaining quite a bit of time towards the end of the stint. And I'm not sure if... I don't think Slapinski has pitted yet. With that fuel-sipping Yud AV in the back of his car. But it still looks like the main battle is for now between David Yates and Thiago Canola for first and second. While David Yates was able to open up a bit of a gap early on, it looks like he isn't quite able to hold the pace, and Thiago is creeping up.
Looks like David is cleansing the wall there. Their acceleration. Well, this is what I was expecting actually. I mean, I never saw that David was really able to get away that easily from Thiago Canola. They are very well matched, so it was a bit of a surprise to me that David was aggressive and tried to get in front of him. And now Thiago, probably he wanted to box.
Not side by side through here, guys. Oh, and Matthew. Matthew getting way out of the way.
But it didn't work.
Definitely looks like Thiago has to pace on full tank fuel.
So they just wanted to check what happened if he was. But now he said.
He's looking again. Not quite able to make it. My apologies for any dropped frames. The internet is not playing ball as here comes Thiago up the inside. Oh!
This situation, it was the same as with Fittipaldi and Alancer that we had been talking about.
The only difference was Thiago wasn't quite as far up alongside.
Well, if these two are going to do the whole race like this, we will see if the brain can withstand that. Because this is pure tension.
It is indeed. I'm not sure our voices will last that long, but here... Oh, I think David Yates may have outbroken himself. No, he gets the car stopped. If only just. Now 2 lapped cars ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be critical. They are coming now to some very slow traffic.
Both of them hanging the rear out. Going through the last...
here because... Oh, good move by Gerard, because any misunderstanding here is really dangerous.
Indeed, I'm expecting Hannes to be very cautious here. Yep, he actually gets off the throttle to let them by before the braking zone. Very nicely done. And this tremendous fight can continue. It's also... Ooh, as David almost outbrakes himself in the chicane there. Just about able to avoid hitting the wall. But it looks like there's a slight difference in the gearing of David and Thiago as well. Especially looking at coming out of this corner, as it looks like David Yates has made a mistake. Thiago's up the inside and here he comes. And I think he may have the position done. Oh, David trying to hold on around outside. But he has to concede, so Thiago Canola retakes the lead of this race on lap 70.
Now the previous effort is gone and you have to climb the mountain again.
Very much so. Well, hopefully they will keep a little bit calm in that fight for a moment or two, since I would like to very quickly have a look at the trivia question for you all to have a bit of a think about as this tremendous race keeps going. But the question is, who tangled with Derek Daly at the start of the 1988 Marlboro Grand Prix at the Meadowlands? This race in real life, obviously. Was it A, Randy Lewis? Was it B, John Andretti? Or was it C, Dale Coyne?
Jason's now into the pits.
Okay. Do you have any guesses for that trivia, Alberto, or would you like to ponder that?
Who crashed with Derek Daly?
Who tangled with Derek Daly at the start of the 88 Meadowlands event or race? Randy Lewis and John Andretti or Dale Coyne?
Well, I've seen that video many times while looking for info for the track, but my memory is no longer so good. I think it was John Andretti, but because I happen to remember him out of the race, but I can't tell exactly who.
Okay, well, I'll let you and everyone else ponder that.
Richard Wilkes, meanwhile, is up to 9th. 1 lap down. Only now. So it seems that at least the full strategy is helping him a bit.
Indeed. Presumably he will have a chance at making it up into at least the top 7, if it all works out perfectly from here.
It could be.
I mean,
Because he's in the same lap as Dave Miller, Juha Boss, Cesarius Lapinski, and, well, Bruno Chacon and Gerard Rion. Jason is out of the pits already.
Okay,
20 laps into the race and he's in 10th position.
Yep, so that's the first stop and possibly...
Richard Wilkes, their power sliding also out of the chicane. He's now behind Bruno Chacon. Going to put a lap on him. Yeah, there he goes.
Very nicely and safely from both of them. And Lapinski definitely saving fuel. I don't think he has stopped either, and he's currently in 8th. I don't think his pace is quite strong enough to challenge for any of the top spots, but he could definitely get a very good finish here if he only has one more stop to go. Was Anders Nilsson has lost his rear wing? Oh, he lost it.
No.
He lost it in turn 2. Just went in there a tiny little bit too quick and lost the rear end. But still, we are on the green.
That should be a quick repair. That should be a quick repair, but well, he should be about maybe not halfway, but nearly halfway into the stint. So let's see if this helps him a bit strategy-wise. It could be.
Hopefully, as long as the car isn't too badly damaged, there's definitely a possibility that he can regain some decent position and points from this race.
Still 7th. Darius is 20 something away. 29. This is going to. Let's see, because Cesarius and Richard Wilkes are coming. So there goes Cesarius, he goes by.
Willis coming through the chicane.
I would have expected that just the rear wing would have been not so long in the repairs. There you go, Richard Wilkes is now in front, 8th.
He may have damaged the suspension as well, and that's why
yeah,
repairs are taking longer, I suppose.
Amazing drive by Richard Wilkes, is to 8th. Really, really great.
Certainly a very good recovery, and possibly still more to come. And with that unfortunate demise for Anders Nilsson, in terms of a very, very good finishing position, that elevates Dave Miller up into the top 5. That's a very good effort from Dave.
Oh. What? Wait a moment. Where is David Jacks? Ah, okay. It seems that Thiago has opened a bit of a gap, and now they were coming to traffic, and David Jacks has unfortunately been unable to pass at the same spot, so he has further lost some ground to Thiago. Yeah,
you are
there
trying
he
to
goes now.
get out of the way.
It's hard in this track.
Oh, it is indeed.
There's a car smoking in the pits.
Oh, dear me, that's Anderson. I think he's the one in the pits. He is indeed. And unfortunately, he has retired.
Yeah, probably on engine.
Oh, that's
Maybe
so
wasn't aware of the
unfortunate.
need to be able to shut down the engine.
Difficult to say. I mean, if you only know that if you damage the car in practice and then sit there for repairs, and that's a very easy oversight to make, and one I made myself a few years ago, where I did an endurance race, had a massive crash and went in for repairs, and I had a mapped engine off and on, so I think the repair was taking like 50-60 seconds. The engine died with 5 seconds to go or something. So very unfortunate for Anders, but it was a very good comeback into HSO racing, and I hope we will see him in more kart races to come. I know he will be taking part in the Super Touring Championship we have lined up for this autumn, which, while we have a bit of a stalemate in the action on track, will be the Super Touring Wagen Cup, which is the German equivalent of the BTCC. And we will be doing the 1995 iteration, which will have cars like the Nissan Primera EGT, the BMW 318i, the Audi A4, the Honda Accord, the Opel
The Vectralier, as I'm calling it.
It is the Vectra, yeah. We will have one Audi 80 in the hands of Pascal Mikola. Trying to think if there's any more makes in that championship. I don't think there is. And we will be going to racetracks such as Zolder in Belgium, Spa as well in Belgium, the Nürburgring, Avus, and Zeltweg, or as it's more common. No, sorry, not Zeltweg. Salzburgring.
Salzburgring, yeah, indeed. Very nice track. Way less known than the most famous, way more famous Zeltweg or A1 ring, as it was called at one point. Red Bull ring later. But it's a very, very nice track, especially for touring cars. It's very undulating there in the hills.
Indeed, and
has some really difficult braking areas because it's in the you're turning at the same time that you're braking, and it's downhill also.
Indeed,
Makes
and
for a very
slightly awkwardly cambered as well.
Yep.
But very sweeping, fairly quick corners, and I don't think at any point you're below third. Sorry?
I guess that by 95 the Germans had already recognized that most of the tracks in their country they were not really best venues for some exciting racing.
Well,
yeah, because that's one of the funny things. I mean, that it's the big contrast that you get in Germany, because they are probably one of the best, of the most iconic and the best tracks in the world ever to race, which is Greenhell, the Nürburgring. And they also have probably some of the worst ones in Europe. I mean, when it's logical. I mean, in the afterwards period when they had to resort to doing some races, whatever they could, but when they started with those airport tracks, it was really probably the lowest point ever. I mean, when you have tracks like the Nürburgring and the Hockenheimring in its original, while having to resort to those stupid airport tracks.
Yeah, it's a little bit meh.
Yeah, but by 95 they were certainly very, very good in picking the tracks all around the place, and all the countries nearby were welcoming the Super Tourenwagen Championship, because there's always been some love for the German racing championships in the nearby countries. After all, that's where many of the automotive makes come from, and they put a lot of money and effort into racing, and they have brilliant machines. It was a nice spectacle. Together with the great German drivers that we have seen over the years, and Hans Stuck here, probably one of the most iconic touring and sports car racing drivers.
Well,
so yeah, but by 95 they were really giving a very good spectacle with this.
Indeed. We're in the real life championship with drivers like Keith Odor, Frank Biela, Steve Soper, Hans Joachim Stuck, Alfred Heger, Joachim Winkelhock, Peter Cox, Ivan Capelli.
Wasn't there Ludwig too, or did he later?
Ludwig Nietzschwitz, yeah, indeed.
Klaus Ludwig is certainly one of my favorite.
Klaus Ludwig,
drivers.
yeah, sorry, yeah. Yeah, I think he was still racing in 95.
And you look at the grid back then, you look at the names that you just said, and man, did they have their handful of the best drivers in Europe were German back then.
Indeed.
Were really good at it.
I suppose the only championship that, in terms of names, that could possibly compete with that would be the BTCC.
Yeah, exactly. It was the premier series in Europe. The one that really got the 2-liter formula started.
Indeed. And that's also partly thanks to Mary Walker doing the commentary for the TV broadcasts of the 90s touring cars.
That was a very clever move from the organization. They grabbed Murray Walker to commentary, because that's the guy who makes any race exciting, no matter if it is or not.
Indeed.
Oh, Thiago Canola just bruised the wall when trying to lap on the inside Matthew Leclerc, and that has allowed David Jacks to close in again.
Indeed.
Speaking of commentators that can make a race exciting, I already told once this situation. It was very funny, and I didn't remember back then the name. Damn me, because it was no other than Chris Economaki. When he was very young, he was contracted to be not broadcasting, but actually being the announcer at the Daytona Beach race in the 1950s.
Okay.
And he was told to make it very exciting, and the race actually was quite dull. Unlike the one that we're seeing, when David Jacks is really now willing to get by Thiago Canola and settle once and for all who is the quickest.
Indeed.
But anyway, they were there at the beach, and there was a 2-mile long straight going in one direction, a hairpin turn, and another 2-mile straight going in the opposite direction for the other turn.
I can understand
so
why the race was
dull and with little action. The race being so dull and little action, Chris Economaki just decided that the best thing to do was simply act as if something was happening, because he realized that the spectators at his turn couldn't see anything that was going on once the car were like half a mile away. But he was on a high post. So what he did was make things interesting, telling the spectators that there had been a lead change going into the other turn, the north turn. And of course, once the north turn, things had to be reversed, and he made it exciting enough, saying, "No, yes, they're going into that north turn, going back. Yeah, he's passing. He's got his position back." And so the spectators, when the cars were back again at the south turn, they saw the cars as they were before. Of course, nothing had happened, but he was so excited, and it was very funny because he told that one of the things that was funnier for him even was that after the race he was hearing some bloke telling to the other that, man, this has been a very exciting race, but you know what? Next year we're taking the tickets in the North Turn. That's where all the action happens.
Good God. Oh. Yeah. That's there's a bit of an anecdote about Murray Walker as well. Alan Gow, who is still the head of BTCC, he took a bit of a break but came back later on in the early 2000s. He in like 90, I'd assume like 93, 94, something like that, 92, 91 maybe even. But anyway, one of those years, he was sort of thinking, well, these highlights reels and the kind of stuff they did before they actually did the full race broadcasts. He was thinking like, well, we're using a lot of money for that, but why? This guy only comes in like 2 days to shoot the highlights videos, but why are we paying so much money for doing that? So he went to one of these recordings and was there with Murray Walker and saw him work and how diligent and how hard he was going into actually making everything that was on screen exciting, no matter what kind of thing it was. And all of these small one-liners like, I'm going for first, says John Cleland. And the car on its roof is a Toyota. He immediately thought, this guy is really good. And he never ever thought about any kind of how much money they were spending on the highlight reels, because he knew that they had a winning concept with Murray Walker on the commentary seat, so to speak.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, the guy was, I mean, he was brilliant. One of the iconic podcasters.
Oh, for sure.
Meanwhile, I should say Richard Wilkes is really on fire. He is now up to 7th position. Amazing. One lap behind Juha Boss. He has been able to unlap himself from several cars. He's ahead now of Jason White, who is in 18. Wait a moment! Jason stopped on the track.
Oh dear,
He's reversing. Oh no!
Oh, he overshot the chicane.
Missed the braking points or something. Does he have a puncture? No.
Oh, looks like it will have only been a, well, only and only, but yeah, he immediately knew he had made a mistake and locked up and just about avoided the tire barriers. Very lucky escape for him there.
Oof, he didn't do anything, but my god. Probably had lost a bit of concentration. The point in the race where it's always hard, especially if you're driving on your own with no reference.
Certainly, and the problem for him now is that he's actually in a battle for position. Brun Chacon, sitting right behind him, is right behind him in the positions as well.
Yeah, and Wilkes is coming to lap them again.
Oh no! Jason White ran deep, hit the wall.
It seems to me that there must be some damage in that car, because he was really struggling with it the previous moments.
Possibly, there certainly will be some kind of damage now. But with any kind of luck, that damage will have cancelled out any kind of damage he had before. But I suppose we'll know, okay, he's going to continue for now anyway. Possibly at a slightly lower lap speed. That's very unfortunate, but hopefully he'll be able to keep going as we're closing in on the last third of the race.
Yep, we're up to 100 laps now. And I believe that in the next 10 laps or so we should be seeing the next pit stop. That will be the last one of this race.
Certainly should be.
The head of the race is there still at it.
Still about just over a second difference between them. Well, of course, as we've seen in the pit stops, David Yates can regain that kind of time, so Thiago would optimally, I suppose, want 3 or 4 seconds of a lead before they head into the pits. Well, let's go through the positions for now. I mean, we have 47 laps to go at the end of this lap, so very much so closing in towards the business end of the race, so to speak. Thiago Canola in the lead by about just under 2 seconds at the end of that straight, ahead of David Yates, who's driving for Hamilton Racing. David Junt still in third. Very consistent and lonely third for the Swiss. Brian Yannick still sitting in fourth, a consistent run from the Detroiter. Unless I'm misremembering, I think Jason has said Brian is from Detroit. Dave Miller still up in 5th place, a really good race from Dave. Hopefully everything will work out and they will pick up a top 5. Juha Boers currently in 6th, about 30 seconds. His deficit to Miller for Gallus Racing. 7th for Richard Wilkes, a very good recovery drive so far, sitting 1 lap behind Juha Boers but closing in by, I'd assume, a few tenths to half a second a lap. Bruno Chacon actually up into 8th, so that's a very good drive from him in the Gore Racing machine. Jason White, unfortunately, with that issue just a few laps ago, dropped to 9th, but still running and keeping up a decent pace by the looks of things. And rounding out the top 10 for now is Cesariusz Szlapinski in the True Sports entry, running about just at now 11 seconds or thereabout behind Jason White. Gerard Rion, the Belgian, sitting in 11th.
Then David Jacks is attempting the move now on Thiago Canola, who had been held by traffic and seems he's going to get by. Did it!
Wow! Let's try to get the replay up. So held up.
This isn't over.
The last turn. Very nice move up inside there. Let's go back to live racing as they go into turn 3 and 4. So maybe that's exactly what David needed. Getting in front of him now when there's less fuel in the cars. Maybe now is when David Yates is quicker. Suppose we'll see in the next couple of laps. Looks like David Yates was a tad bit slow. Canola's gearing and setup works really well coming off of turn 2. There must be a slight difference in how these two guys have set up their cars. Canola scrapes the wall a little bit, but still gets a good run. As Dave Miller gets out of the way. Allow the leaders to keep battling, but clearly David Yates is making mistakes and he races the wall a little bit. Here comes Canola up the inside. Oh, shades of 88 again. Oh, and a slightly miss of gearing from David Yates there. Loses just a little bit of pace, but Canola couldn't make anything of it, and it's back to half a second.
Really a pity that there can't be two winners of the race, because these guys would both deserve it.
Oh, for sure. Oh, as David Yates makes a tiny bit of an error there. Stays out of the wall, tries to hold it back. More or less parks the car in the right hand there. So far able to hold on to the lead. That was a little bit naughty parking the car there, but he's entitled to take the line he wants, so while Thiago may not be best pleased.
About the skills of these guys, but if we continue like this, they run serious risk of not ending this race.
I thought you were going to say they run the risk of letting David Jung take the win. As here comes Canola with a bit of a run. He goes up the inside. Oh, and David again really late on the brakes, locks all four tyres up.
And that's very dangerous, because getting out of the racing line there, you see what happens, you're immediately against the wall.
Oh, we have a yellow! Oh, it's Mathieu Leclerc unfortunately out of the race.
What happened there?
It looks like he, just like Anders Nilsson, lost it in turn 1.
Wasn't it Mathieu Leclerc?
Yep, it was, and it looks like... Oh, that's unfortunate. Mathieu Leclerc ran a little bit deep, scraped along the wall, and unfortunately the tires at an access road sticks out a little bit, and that unfortunately caught his car. And the front right just ripped the front right tire off his car. So very unfortunate. Mathieu was doing a very good job, allowing the faster cars to go by and keep on running, as Gerard Riot is in the pits as well. Not sure
He's
if that's...
been in the pits for some time, I think.
Okay, presumably...
The damage, probably
yeah.
repair.
Okay, so with that, Jason White is still in 9th, Chacon 8th, Wilkes 7th.
One interesting fact, we haven't had pitting under yellow so far, and I think maybe it now. Let's see. Yep, there they go. Because at this point, this is the last pit stop of the race. They can make it to the end.
Indeed, and
but
of course...
They are only the head of the race is pitting.
Yep, that is...
Pits are close to...
that is because they are the only car... Yeah, they are the only cars on the lead lap, so... Here comes Ibañez. He may have to take a splash and dash, I suppose. But David Yates is way ahead out of the pits. It's a tremendous job by his pit crew.
Being under yellow, Dago shouldn't have problems catching up with him. Oh no, now there is a car in the middle.
That is Ibañez.
Yep.
So presumably...
but it's enough to allow David to restart. Yeah, though he will meet a lot of traffic now in front of him, even if they want to be helpful. Richard Wilson laps himself thanks to that. In front of David Jackson now, though, will probably be... Obviously, he will oblige and let them pass. But the situation now.
Well,
he's in the same lap as Juha Boss now, by the way. I mean, obviously has Juha right behind him, but should turn the full track all around and catch Juha and overtake him for 6th position. But and Juha's going into the pits.
Yeah, I think he was looking to do I think he was looking to do a pit stop that time by, but of course the pit lane was closed to cars a lap down, so
yeah, that's right.
I assume he realized a little bit while he was in the pits and therefore just ran through. So
Still though, people like Richard Wilkes have been pit. Probably thinks he can make it to the end of the race, and well,
very possible.
That's another. Juha's coming out of it now, and he should be getting close to the other cars now. He should catch them up, I believe. Let's see if he time before the green flag drops.
He probably will. Just taking it a
Where
little
are we?
bit
Yeah,
easy on
because the
cold
safety
tires.
car is now entering the rear, the short.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be able to catch up there. No, that wasn't you, but I'm fairly sure he'll be able to catch back up. We have at least one more lap.
We're having another yellow anyway, another caution lap. Sorry.
Yeah, no
What happened
worries.
there with the safety car? Wiggling a bit.
It'll be in this time, boy.
Okay, as Gerard finally out of the pits after his lengthy repairs. 9 laps down to the car closest ahead, but still inside the points, so I think Gerard will be happy to pick up points around this kind of draining and difficult track.
Now's the moment to be really cautious, because look at that. X has Thiago Canola right behind him, but they have 3 slower cars in front. So this is going to be hairy.
Hairy, but very interesting. So the top 3 in the race running 1, 2, 3. Well, 1, 2, 3 in a line, but
Going to be a no quarters race, because, well, it's 40 laps to the finish. The big prize is awaiting there. Safety car is out.
Yep, so let's see. Jason White looks to be in control of the restart here. Oh, and there's a bit of a stack up.
No, David is on the wrong side. I think he will get stuck there, because all the cars will be going for the inside. Yeah, he has to change.
Well, he gets
Good move
past.
by the other cars. Richard will should open. No!
Oh, Thiago!
Thiago hit him. Yeah, now Thiago is boxed there. Look at that.
David Junt.
Thiago.
David Junt, the ever consistent Swiss, takes
Well,
advantage.
Richard made his best. Someone was going to get boxed there.
Oh, and Richard really having to work to get out of the way there, but everyone survived, so hopefully the race can now truly get underway here with the top 3 running 1, 2, 3 on the road. Which Richard Wicks,
the cold
unfortunately.
tires are affecting Wilkes more.
Yeah, presumably he nudged the wall there. Let's see, Canola looking for a move on David Junt. Looking around outside.
That's the problem for Thiago now. He has a quality driver right now in front, David Junt. He has to pass him, get up to David Jacks, and overtake David Jacks. And all that in just the remaining 35 laps.
When David has the inside line.
Yep. They are obviously fighting for positions, so shouldn't expect to get any help from David Junt. He's fighting his own race.
Oh, of course.
And David is always, as we know, better towards the end of the races. I mean, he's a really constant driver who always is improving along the race.
Very much so. One thing Thiago has is his top-end speed and acceleration coming out of turn 2. Oh, David Junt actually runs a little bit deep and holds on to the position for now, but here comes Thiago on the cutback. Oh, again. Oh, there's actually a little bit of contact. There's a bit of a spin.
That was Thiago's position, I believe.
Oh, he tries to get out of the way. Oh.
Yeah, and we got the yellow for that.
That's unfortunate.
Oh
no!
Slapinski just hit the wall, yes.
No. Oh, come on, fellas.
He had to quit.
Oh, Slapinski and Chacon had a bit of a moment just before. And then as Slapinski comes around, we can see here he doesn't have much room to work with, and unfortunately he carries just a bit too much speed. This track takes no prisoners whatsoever.
Juha Boss hit one of the cars that was there.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if this is going to affect his pace, because he has now Richard Wilkes just 30 seconds behind him.
he hit the car, and Thiago Canola, of course, was the car who you have both made contact with. So, the question is, will that affect his pace as well? So both of them could be in trouble in terms of their pace. And I think Richard Wilkes would be very happy to be able to take 6th away from Juha. And the thing with that as well is that Dave Miller doesn't have that much of a gap to Juha either, so this will be a very interesting situation.
Yeah, everyone has been piled up. They're right behind, so all how many laps we're getting?
At least another 2 more.
Oh dear. Well, it was quite a bit of a kerfuffle there, so I'm not overly surprised. The question is... yeah, why not? Let's have a look at what is coming up at HSO in the in the near future. Of course, this Wednesday, I don't have graphics for that. We have the Super Touringwagen Cup running 2 races, a sprint and a feature race at Solde. With the Super Touring Car mod, with a couple of new cars thrown in there, which we haven't had before. There are still drives available for that, so if any one of you watching would like to take part in HSO racing, the Super Touring mod would be a great way to do so, as it's more or less plug and play. But other than that, we have next Sunday, September the 15th, rounds 7 and 8 of the 1973 British Formula 3 Championship. And I'm really bad because I haven't actually checked where we are racing.
I believe it may be Zandvoort.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. Thank you. If it is Zandvoort, that'll be a cracking race. That'll of course be on the old layout, which we have raced in the Formula 1 Championships, for example. We have in 2 weeks' time, on September 22nd, round 10, the Escort Radar Warning 200 of the Kart Championship. I actually don't know from the top of my head where we are racing.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the safety car is going into the pits.
Okay.
We're heading for the green. There's only 28 laps remaining. 29 laps remaining now. So this is going to be a good sprint. There they go.
Sort out my little broadcast window. There we go. I want to get the flag out of the way. There we go. So David Yates with a slight bit of an advantage. Richard Wilkes will be wanting to unlap himself, I think. And of course David Junt will want to try and get to hands with OS Brian Yannick. That's an audacious move. Luckily everyone was able to avoid and open up a gap for him to fly through.
Watch out for Thiago Canola now, because he is the man on the move. He needs to make up many positions and the gap to the lead.
When David Junt has
just overtook Dave Miller, he's now behind Richard Wilkes entering the main straight. nearly drifting up to the wall, nearly hitting it. Let's see how much he can make up from that difference.
Well, difficult to say. He is behind the leaders, so first and foremost he needs to have a bit of help from them to put Bawson and Miller a lap behind, and of course, sorry if you were talking about Miller and Bawes, but of course they are running almost nose to tail here.
And David Jack's driving as if he had stolen it, because he obviously knows that he can't take any chances here. He has two very high quality drivers right behind him, willing to get that race win. David June might not be as quick as him in this race, but he certainly won't give him anything. Going to be there, right there, to capitalize on any error from David Jacks.
For sure, and Thiago Canola obviously seems like he has a little bit of trouble with damage. I think he's acclimatizing himself to the car after the contact he had
he's
with
already
Juha,
behind David Junt.
Indeed, but looks like Ovi actually gained. He may actually be a little bit quicker overlap still. The gap, of course, fluctuating a little bit between Jakes, Junt and Canola. We actually have for position as well Chacon and Jason White fighting for 8th and 9th, running nose to tail. Unfortunately, Gerard Rion has retired, so we're down to the 9 runners. So
Thiago Canola just did the fastest lap, which seems to indicate quite well both his commitment to winning this race and that whatever damage his car has, not serious enough to slow him down. He's already right behind David John.
wow!
And well, this was the situation we saw before, and well, David John is not giving him anything for free. He already showed him that. So let's see what happens this time.
Well, I wouldn't want to say that Thiago has been sandbagging, but whatever reserves he did have, he has definitely opened up to, and he is definitely flying. My God, I think he was quicker on that lap as well than both Junt and David Jakes up ahead. This will be a cracking finish to the race if it goes green all the way. That's for sure.
Let's hope so.
Of course, the one thing with David Junt as well is that he very, very rarely cracks under pressure, so Thiago will have to be will have to use his head and trick David Junt in some way to get by him, I think. That, or he needs to wait for a tiny error from David Junt. I'm not sure which is.
It's no wonder that they both are, well, trying to make the best, because they are right now apart in the championship just by 9 points.
Whoa! No! Whoa! David, that was a bit late on the defensive, I'd say. Dear me. That Thiago didn't go end over end is absolutely incredible. My God. That's probably the luckiest escape I've seen in HSO's kart championship in the 2 seasons we have ran this iteration of the championship. Wow.
Well, like I told you, David John's not going to do any favors to Thiago. He wants that second position, he will have to earn it with sweat and blood.
And possibly a few tears as well. Deary me, wow.
All this, of course, is playing big time in the benefit of David Jacks.
Yeah, certainly looks like
He has opened a nearly 4 seconds gap. Now let's see.
This
Let's
looks
see, because we're coming out to the critical area as Thiago has more top speed than David.
Will he actually run? No, he actually
No,
cuts back.
He will cross behind to try to overtake now. That's what I was expecting him to do, right. There you go.
Let's see if David can be...
Done. He tricked David into blocking the area of the turn, while he was actually braking early and sliding right behind him, crossing to the other lane, out accelerating him on the straight.
That's a fantastic
move by Thiago. Very intelligent. And something that you don't pull that easily on someone like David Jones.
No, for sure, and I think that speaks as well to the setup prowess that I assume Thiago has on these road courses. Because David, of course, is a quick driver, but he may not quite have the setup knowledge of Yates and Canola, but makes up for it by being very consistent and very good at what he does in terms of driving to the utmost limit of his and the car's ability. And now let's see what Thiago can do about David Yates ahead. Looks like he's gained at least half a second on this previous lap.
Check the lap times. Well, David Jacks had been doing a slightly slower lap in the previous one, 40 seconds dead. Now he's back. Yeah, he's obviously feeling the pressure. He's now down to 39.6.
Wow, and Thiago still cut 2/10 off of him, huh?
Yeah, he's well aware that Thiago has been able to pass David John. Now Thiago, for the same lap, did 0.2 of a second quicker. I mean, absolutely on fire now, 39.4. Still not at his best lap performance, which was 39.2. Which indicates that he can go even quicker, and we'll see what happens this time by. Yeah, 39.4 still. Probably also to do with the fuel load, because there's still 16 laps till the end. And I would dare to say that maybe the reason of Thiago's lower pit stop was that he wasn't able to fiddle with the hood quick enough. And he maybe got a full load of fuel, while maybe David Jacks was able to modify his settings and put only the needed fuel in the car.
Certainly possible, and we're now coming up to traffic as well, which may play a part in all of this. Gap is 2.2 seconds as Jason White gets way out of the way there. I wouldn't be surprised if he does the same for Thiago. Yep, lifts off the throttle to let Thiago past.
And Thiago is almost there with David Jacks already. Amazing recovery. Look at that.
Certainly. Thiago, I think, nudged the wall a little bit there. So while he gained time, he's now losing time because he loses the downforce going through the last corner. So he actually dropped in total a second to David Yates. I thought the timing HUD is a little bit off, but half a second he lost. So of course David Junt just hoping for any bread crumbles to fall off the table, so to speak, for him to take advantage of for now, I think. Brian Yannick in a very secure 4th place, a lap up to David Junt and 2 laps down to Dave Miller, who has 7.5 seconds back to Juha Boss, who of course is in 6th, and Richard Wilkes in 7th is 19 seconds now behind Juha, so he is steadily closing in. I think the distance was 40 seconds at the restart. So very good driving from Richard here on his recovery. Chacon 8th with Jason White just behind him in 9th to round out the cars still running.
There goes Thiago. He has cut the difference, the distance to a bit over 1 second.
Indeed, and David Yates is
should be catching up with David very soon. Though, as we have seen so many times over the season, catching up is one thing, overtaking is a very different one.
Very much so, but it looks like David is feeling the pressure. He made a mistake in turn 2 and locked up massively going into turn 3 when he actually touched the wall on the exit of turn 6.
Pressure, you say? He's going to have nightmares today. Going to think when he goes to the toilet and opens up that Thiago will come out of it.
It's definitely possible.
So many times today.
My God, yeah.
How many times has David Jacks today thought that Thiago was dead? For good, only to look in the mirror and see him again there.
Indeed, he will know every millimeter of Thiago's car, and he will see it when he closes his eyes when he goes to sleep. Deary me. This is going to be a very close finish with 9 laps to go. 9 laps to go, and the difference is 1 second as they cross the finish line that time around.
It's obvious that Thiago thinks that they both have pending business because of some of the maneuvers that have happened today. So fingers crossed that there is not too much aggressiveness there and David John finds himself winning the race.
Indeed. Well, I don't think there's too much unhappiness between Canola and Yates, to be honest.
Oh no, it's just rivalry. I mean,
No, of course.
obviously Thiago has been working hard for this. He has a very good car and is driving fantastic today. Feels he's the quickest driver on the track. So he wants the proper reward for that.
Of course. But the way to look at life is that life is always unfair, one way or another. I suppose so. But we'll see if life decides to reward Thiago today. We feel have to wait another round to get a win, but either way it's really close here. Just barely a second as they cross the finish line this time around, with that traffic of Juha Boss slightly catching Canola out. And here comes Canola closing in ever so consistently.
Seems to be very good at these street tracks because he did a brilliant job already at Toronto. There.
Indeed, it would seem that in terms of road courses and street circuits, Canola is very strong, but according to himself anyway, he struggles to set the cars up for the ovals.
Well, his car isn't the best for ovals either.
That would explain part of it, but I almost thought Thiago was going to run wide there, but he just wanted to take the wider line, and both of these guys using all of the road. There is so little grey stuff left for them to run on this track. Both of them going gun-ho. Ooh, as David Yates I think raised the wall a little bit then. So 5 laps to go. The difference is still around a second. Thiago running a little bit deep in the braking zone for 5 and 6. I haven't noticed that compared to David, Thiago is kicking the rear end out a little bit, so I don't know if he's getting a little bit flustered with not getting close enough to have a go. Oh! Look, I think that was more lag on slight lag on my end, but that looked very close with Dave Miller, but clearly all of them survive and can keep on fighting. I will say that David is really strong in the chicane at 5 and 6. He really gets on the power very well.
Yep. Oh, Jason, what does he want?
Whoa!
Was it smoke? That's heavy braking.
Well, hopefully we
No,
won't.
he's missing his front wing.
Yep. Hopefully we won't have a yellow flag though. Currently staying free.
Let's hope.
But maybe David has done enough now. He has 1.6 seconds the gap. So unless
Jason's car is really struggling there. Going into the pits, I think. Yeah. No sense in trying to end the race there on the track. So good move. No yellow. And another yellow would have been really bad for Juha Boss because Richard Wilkes is obviously still, but on the same lap and on the restart would have been very heavy.
Whoa! David Yates just ran deep in the 5-6 chicane, nudged the wall, and now Canola is as close as he's been so far after the most recent restart. I think this may be the last lap. And David makes another mistake. Canola's right behind him now. Let's see, he has a bit of a run, I think. Yep, he does.
Canola just scored the quickest lap of the race.
Whoa,
so...
Going around outside? Surely not!
He's going all for
Whoa!
it. Look at that, too wide.
Answer Fittipaldi stuff. Oh, up the inside.
Oh, he has the
there's contact. Both of them in the wall.
Answer Fittipaldi indeed. Oh my god.
Well, I'm not going to blame David Yates for not quite slowing down to not spin him round, to be honest.
Just lost his front wing.
Oh. On the second to last lap as well.
Oh, and Richard Wilkes just went through the pits. Maybe he needed fuel.
Possibly just for a quick scratch and match indeed.
Canola is not going to repair the front wing. He's going to try to get his third place like that. So he's scoring still a second.
Yeah, he is. He has 4 seconds, 5 seconds to David Junt. So, but it looks like the win will be David Yates in the end as he. Yep, as he comes around the final turn.
Jason White is again on the wall. What's
but
this?
No idea.
Well,
but David Yates
won the race.
Yep. And second is Thiago Canola. Very unfortunate in the end, but that was some great racing between those two. David Junt takes third. Fourth will be Brian Yannick as he comes around the last corner. And fifth is Dave Miller. Big congratulations, mates.
Good one, Dave.
Juha Boss
finished. Juha Boss.
Yep. Seventh for Richard Wilkes. Very good recovery drive. Eighth for Bruno Chacon. And ninth, and trying to just drag the car over the finish line for points, is Jason White. That car is really not healthy, but in the end, just about gets over the finish line.
Barely made it with his Formula 4, because that's what it looked like.
Yeah, certainly. And he promptly parks it and will walk back to the pits. So yeah, wow.
Well, oh well, I guess there will be some words between first and second today.
It's very likely.
was a certainly a hard-fought race. Well, we did get a lot of action for this track. It could have been a boring race, but these guys really spiced it up.
Oh, for sure. And some slight controversy as well to put into a great fight.
Okay, Jonathan, forget to give the answer to the trivia question.
Oh yeah, you're right. Let's see if I can get that up while we wait to see if any drivers wish to give an interview. I'm not sure either David or Tiago will be interested, as they will most likely be a bit heated up. But while we do the trivia question, so the question for you all was, who tangled with Derek Daly at the start of the 1988 Marlboro Grand Prix at the Meadowlands? Was it A. Randy Lewis, B. John Andretti, or C. Dale Coyne?
I'm not going to chime in since I know the answer.
I suppose you better not. Indeed, Jason.
Nope.
But any guesses from Dave or Juha? No, Alberto has answered.
No, not from my side. I suppose Randy Lewis is always a good guess.
He's always a good guess in these situations.
So, yeah. So since Dave doesn't want to have a stab at it by the sounds of things, the answer is actually John Andretti. One of the many times John Andretti was involved in less than average situations, I suppose one could say, maybe.
No, that was by far not his worst incident of the year. He had that really awful accident at Pocono.
Oh, fair enough.
Which did not make it on TV. But
luckily for him,
he was very lucky to. Well, that accident was basically what made the drivers, I think, say enough is enough. This track is too dangerous, because it was directly attributed to the uneven walls in the pit lane and everything, and the poor state of the track. So,
well, we certainly seem to have captured the spirit of that because we have had here our good amount of carnage today. So.
I'll say.
For sure.
Joined your channel.
I'd like to congratulate my my teammate on winning for Hemmelgarn. I was lucky to even finish, not because of what happened in the last lap, but because I avoided not one, not two, but 3 accidents that happened directly in front of me along the way. So I'm happy to even get to the line, albeit without any wings. I want to thank Alberto for making this track for us. It was a lot of fun to drive, if nerve-wracking. Thank you also, Jonatan, for broadcasting the race, despite the fact you're a bit under the weather. We appreciate that.
Very much welcome. That was a lot of fun, so I certainly am happy I didn't miss it.
I really, really, really wanted to challenge Bruno there, but I just didn't have anything for him at the end. I had accumulated a bit of wear and tear, and then I looked at the fuel gauge and realized that my brilliant attempt to make it in one stop was not going to work. So,
well, you got some points anyway. So,
I got points.
And you earned them. So,
thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but as you know, I must always run now because it's a bit late here, and tomorrow someone has to run the country. So, good night to you all. Always a pleasure. It was a really, really fun race, and now that I see Tiago is here, congratulations for your race, mate. I know it's short taste at the end. We'll look at that. You did a brilliant job at driving, Thiago. Yeah, guys.
Thank you, Alberto.
User disconnected from your channel.
Yeah, so we do have Thiago here. First of all, congratulations on second place and a brilliant drive. But yeah, tell us about your race in total, if you wish. A sort of summary or whatever you think is suitable.
The car. I think me and Jakes, we had a different pace compared to the rest of the field. And, I don't know if we had practiced more and probably we were more prepared. And yeah, it was quite fun, being so close to him the whole race, and exchanging positions, very clean battles between me and him. He got ahead of me in one of the pit stops, and we kept following each other. It was a pretty close race to the end, and I don't know actually what happened between me and Jonatan. We were fighting for position. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I spun the car in the last chicane and had the rear end damaged. I had to fix the car. The steering wheel wasn't aligned anymore until the end of the race. Maybe that's why I was like sideways all the time with the car when I was pressing the throttle. It was pretty fun. Pretty fun. It had a bitter taste in the end, a little bit, but no, was amazing. It was amazing to race.
It was really good fun to watch you and David Yates and David Junt battle for those top 3 positions. And it certainly looked like you were the quickest driver on pure pace around here. Do you think you will be able to carry that on to the next race? That pace of yours?
I don't know, Jonatan. Some drivers, they adapt easily to specific tracks. So far, the last 2 tracks, I was fortunate to adapt myself, and the setup was great. Maybe next race, other drivers will be ahead, and be much tougher to get some points.
You're going to have to adapt to the Pocono bumpity bumps.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that is 2 rounds away. Next round is the escort raid of
that's
Morning
right.
200 at Mid-Ohio, actually.
That's right. Mid-Ohio's next.
Yeah, but congrats to I think it was well deserved. He was the whole time very close, and he knew how to capitalize and stay ahead in the end. Yeah, it was really, really brave.
Yeah, it was certainly good fun to watch, and congratulations once again on second place and some really solid points for the championship.
Yeah, thank you.
We are also joined by both Juha and Dave, of course, has stayed with us. You two had, if not always a wheel-to-wheel battle, it looked like you had a time-based battle towards the end, so maybe you have first. How do you think your race went?
Well, actually, I couldn't keep up with Dave. Was some laps I was on his pace, but he was a bit quicker. And around lap 80, I brushed the wall slightly, bent the suspension. After that, I just tried to finish the race. Pace wasn't too bad, but the car was bent, so I was never going to catch Dave unless something happened. My main worry was keep Wilkes behind me. Worked. Run it.
Okay. And Dave, I believe that may be your first top 5 in the car championship.
It is definitely the best result I've ever had in IndyCars. Very enjoyable race, very enjoyable track. Although I fear the inside of my gloves are now a biohazard.
I can sort of imagine that will have been some very sweaty work for all of you, considering how tight and treacherous that track actually is.
It is. I I can't imagine driving a real car like that for 150 laps of that place and not coming out anything other than jelly.
Yeah, and we don't have to deal with the G forces and any number of other things.
The heat, among
This is
other
Dave
sides,
missed
I'd
a good
say.
show.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race to broadcast and really good fun to watch. And I hope all of you enjoyed racing and driving it as much as I enjoyed, and I hope Alberto enjoyed watching the race. But yeah, upcoming is of course this Wednesday, the STW 1995 Championship at Solder. There are still a few open cars available for anyone wanting to join in on the racing. It's a very good way to start your racing here at HSO. It's more or less turnkey, and we have a lot of friendly guys who will help you out with any setup if you are struggling with the default stuff. And after that, we have next weekend the British Formula 3 Championship, rounds 7 and 8, around me and names. The Sandford circuit. And after that, in 2 weeks' time, we have the Escort Radar Warning 200 at Mid-Ohio with these kart machines. And on October 13th, just over a month away, we have the Quake Estate 500 at Pocono.
Woohoo!
At least one guy being happy about that one.
Bumpity 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 bump. Bump
So-
bump bump.
So yeah, any thoughts about the event from any of you before we end off the broadcast?
Only that the carnage could have been far more had people not been really judicious. There were a couple of instances where people had to really pull out fantastic skill to avoid accidents, like especially on restarts. So as much carnage as there was, it could have been worse.
Yes, agreed. We definitely had quite a nice long green flag run in the middle as well.
I think that says a lot about people's patience and their focus.
For sure. So yeah, with that, thank you very much to all our drivers for taking part and putting on a fantastic show. Thank you also to everyone who tuned in and watched the race. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed commentating and watching it myself. My apologies for being sick, but not much I can do about that. But now I'll drop off, have a cup of tea and some honey and that, I think. And next broadcast we will be at Sandford for the Formula 3 Championship next weekend. I believe Jason will be your main commentator, and I will try to do the color stuff if possible.
Yeah, I should have the link up for that broadcast probably tomorrow or the next day.
Fantastic. So with that, thank you yet again to everyone, and I hope you have a fantastic week. And we'll see you all, if not on Wednesday, when we may meet racing. You will see us again on the air next Sunday. Good night, everyone.